What the hell's going on? Hey, everybody, welcome to a new edition of Box Seats. Today is Tuesday, Election Day. Everybody's talking about the election and everything else. My name is Frank Holder. I'm here with Fig. I'm here with Talent. You guys have got to know they've been in the comedy game for a very long time. They've been in films, commercials, television. They've been in everything, man. They've been in and out the game for a long time, so why not add them into something we call sports? You know, there's a lot of always to talk about, so why not add some comics in this, right? So,
hey, Frank, I just did a set at the voting booth.
You did see, so now add the voting booth to that. So
That's
festivals,
dope.
commercials, movies, TV. Now a voting booth. How about that? That's dope.
Yep.
That's dope. And only you could do that, Talent. Only you could do that. You know,
That's how we get down, baby.
yeah, that's how
Tough
you gotta do it.
crowd, though. Tough crowd.
Especially if you went to the wrong booth. All right, let's get the show underway. And you guys know every single day, if you've been following the show, we always start out this show talking about something related to COVID, right? I mean, that's just the world we live in. And this morning, the news dropped that GM John Elway from the Denver Broncos and CEO John Ellis of the Denver Broncos both test positive for the coronavirus. So with that being said, Talent, I'm going to drop this news on you and say, are you surprised? I know you're not going to be surprised, but I'm going to just ask you anyway. So, yeah, any surprises?
You know what?
Can you be surprised anymore?
I'm not going to lie. I am surprised because as much as we talk about this, I guess I assumed that the higher ups wouldn't be around the masses. You know what I mean? Like, I just assumed that the players are different. You're down there practicing 40, 50 people constantly around each other, going home to different environments, coming back. That I could see. But when you think GM, president, owner, everything up at that echelon above coach, you're like, the hell are they doing around people?
Yeah,
Everything that gets done virtually. If I'm John Elway, I ain't seeing none of you Negroes all season. I'm on Zoom cursing people out. So I am surprised.
Okay. Fig, what's your thought process?
Yeah, man, I swear to you, man, I guess sports shows are supposed to be like where people have a difference of opinion, but I agree 100%. I mean, yo, ain't these dudes like over 50 years old in their 60s, 70s, stuff like that, you know?
It's worse. They're the ones setting the rules, right?
And, you know, I'm thinking like, yo, man, why aren't you responsible enough not to be around the, you know, certain groups of people, man? Yo, I don't even let some of my family in my house, man. I'm like, yo, man, I don't want to see y'all till this is over, yo. I just don't. I'm sorry. You know,
I'm
it
serious.
is what it is. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what kind of lifestyle you lead. And I don't know if you're trying to, you know, hit the clubs and all that. I don't know what you're trying to do. So I'm like, yo, I know what I'm doing. That's the only person I know knows what I know my wife is doing. So like, yo, we on lockdown. You know what I mean? And I would think that older people thinking that they would be a little bit more responsible, that they would like, they not hanging around and being in a position where they would, you know, be able to catch this. I expect it from the players. These are 20-year-olds, you know, the guys in their early 20s, you know what I mean? Late 20s, early 30s, stuff like that. You know, they want to hang out. They want to do stuff. They feel invincible, you know what I mean? Because they athletes. I expect that from them, but I expect older people to be a little more responsible. And I'm shocked, man. I'm blown away.
Okay, so I'm shocked because of the obvious, you know, it's COVID. I'm also shocked because these are the guys who set the rules, they set the tones, and then of course the NFL's been coming down very hard on teams that supposedly weren't, following the guidelines. So it does shock me. I'll throw that out there. But
they're finding the coaches for not wearing a mask on the sideline.
Yeah, so let's pick this up and just since we're talking about the NFL and we're talking about upper management, we're talking about how the NFL is handling things right now. The NFL is also discussing, because of COVID and because of scheduling getting messed up, they're talking about expanding the playoffs to actually having more teams. So we're looking at 8 teams, so 16 team playoffs, 8 teams in each conference instead of 7 teams. Now, I'll be the first one to say I didn't like the new adjustments that they made from last year to this year. I was the first one who didn't. I don't like the mess. I like the way it was. Everything else you have to fight for it to be in the rounds. And then now it seems like the only 2 people who are having to bye in each conference is the one who has number 1. Remember, as of up until last year, the 1 and 2 had the byes. Right. That, you know, you had to fight. Now, from this point moving forward, only the 1 has the bye. But now there's going to be 7 other teams. So that kind of takes the thrill and excitement out of it for me. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think, Talent?
I mean, I agree with you on this, but I think that to extend it and add more teams, but I felt like this about football. I got to be honest. Over the last, I want to say 5-6 years, especially, I just feel like football's going in a different direction. I feel like they're doing what a lot of sports do eventually is, no matter how big the sport gets, there's always another group of people they're trying to appeal to. So that goes for softening the game. That goes for penalizing people. You know, like I'm watching the game last night, and just like some of the calls and no calls, it's like, who are you trying to please? So who are you trying to please? Adding more teams and stretching a playoff structure. You know what I mean? Like, it's like these people are never content with their base. No matter how many billions of dollars they make, I'm chasing another base. So I agree with you, Chris. I didn't like the original change. Now you're talking about another change. I'm not with you.
I'll throw it to you, Fig, but I'll just add this. The change is all money based. You know what I mean? And then, of course, with the new change of them adding another team for this year because of COVID, they're trying to make up the money that they potentially think they're going to lose. That's my thought. What's your thought, Fig?
It's always the money. It's America, baby. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is follow the money, and you'll follow the reason, man. I'm like, yo, man, it's ridiculous, man. It's like the NFL is looking for the softer side of the NFL. And the thing is kind of funny, it's like, yo, they're talking about this whole safety issue, but they're adding more teams to play in the playoffs, which means they're adding more games, which means they're adding more opportunity for players to be injured and hurt and have long-lasting injuries because you're playing more. Here's the thing. The more you play, the more opportunity you have to get injured. So why are you adding more teams? Also, right. It lessens the competition to me because that means that the playoffs is supposed to be for a select group of teams, the elite, the top echelon. If you're adding more teams, then you're adding more teams who actually lost and they didn't have enough wins to make it into the top echelon. So now you're lowering the criteria for being into the playoffs. And like, yo, man, this is turned into T-ball, for God's sakes, man. We got toddlers playing this game. You know what I mean? And anybody can get in. This is supposed to be an exclusive club.
Yeah, but it's not. On a good note, the Jets will make the playoffs.
Yeah. On the exclusivity part, everything you're saying is correct. There are 32 teams in the NFL. If you add 60, that means you have a 50-50 chance to make it. Before you didn't have that. Now you got a 50-50 chance to make the playoffs no matter which conference you're in, how bad you are, which takes the exclusivity of it out. I love the way the NFL playoff system was set before because you had to play really hard to make sure you get there. And only the select few, like Fig said, only select few make the playoffs. Now, we can do whatever we want. You could literally be 8-8 and make the playoffs in any conference, in any division, no matter where you at. You literally have a good chance of making it. But
that's right, man. And I hate the referees too. These new referees, man. There's only one referee.
That's a whole other argument. But hold up, though.
You're not gonna go there.
Frank just hit the nail on the head.
We're not gonna go
there. Yeah, that's another conversation. Frank just hit the nail on the head though when he said any conference 8-8, because that's been an argument in the league for years of how come I have this record in this conference, I go nowhere near the playoffs, but over in the Eastern Conference, somebody's 8-8, and they get in every year. That's been an argument in the league forever.
Yeah, that's the thing. They try to get the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs because they 8-8 every year.
Bingo! Like, dude, we need to get a bell, like bing, 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 bing. Hey, it's America's team. They try to figure out how they can do that because Jerry Jones.
Win. How about that? Why don't you try winning something?
Nobody in that division will have 8 wins,
and still might make the playoffs. Let's not forget
with 4.
Yeah,
somebody gonna make the playoff with 4 wins
or 3. Let's be honest, or 3, because they try to make sure every team from the division gets in there. But speaking of NFL, I got to talk about y'all's team, the Giants, because last night, I was sitting on the fence when I watched the game. We all saw the pass interference, right? We all saw the game. I absolutely loved the game. I was expecting the Giants to tie the game, but I don't know, man. I mean, the way I've understood pass interference, the way I've always understood pass interference, what I saw last night was pass interference. Now,
Yep.
I hate the Giants, so it's not like I'm sticking up for the Giants. You know, I'm a Patriots fan. I hate the Giants, so I'm not even about that. But what I saw last night, let's be realistic. I thought that was pass interference. But Daniel Jones could have led him with the pass. But that's not what. Yeah, but that's not the issue right now. The issue is what in the world is pass interference? Like, because every year, I don't know what pass interference is.
Oh no, that was pass interference, clear. Like no, uncut. Nobody can argue what that call was. They got robbed last night for having a chance of tying the game and going into an overtime situation. But I think the league looked at it like, of all teams, this is the Giants who are stinking up the league, and they're about to challenge our number one guy right now, who's Brady, and these Tampa Bay guys. They're at the top, 4 teams in the league.
But,
so
but what's pass interference? Like, I don't help
Wait
me.
a minute, hold on.
Help
figured
me.
out. Listen, the last play last night, I just had it down. When the referees had their conference, they was like, listen, if we call pass interference, this is going to overtime. He's like, you want to play overtime or you want to go home early? He was like, all right, we want to go home early. Okay, 1, 2, 3, break. All right, guys, it wasn't pass interference. We're going home.
No, but seriously, right? But what is talent? I'm gonna go back to you. What is pass interference? Because the Des Bryant play that happened a couple of years ago, that was clearly pass interference. The New Orleans Saints didn't go to the playoffs that year because that was clearly pass interference.
Oh my God, that New Orleans Saints had to be the most egregious pass interference I have ever seen.
I think they missed the call. I think the first flag came out. The guy's right there, dead on. He sees it. You see the huddle ensues right after. They run over there, and it's the huddle, and you're like, okay, what the hell's going on? And then here comes your guy, the leader. Oh, there's no flag on the play. He overturned a call that was already made with the flag. Pass interference, you're not allowed to touch the receiver before the ball gets there.
Okay.
This guy clearly, from the leg all the way up to the hand, to the body, he's clearly touching and engaging the receiver. Then the ball hits. You beat the ball there. It's pass interference. Everybody knows that.
Okay. Man, that was borderline sexual assault the way he was on that man's back like that, man.
It was very sexy.
I was like, my God.
All right, well, let me just throw this out there and say, because it happened so fast, and because they have a replay, and because he was in the end zone, and because of that, I think they should have stuck with what the original call was. That's what I think they should have done. But if was the odds was it an odds maker thing? Was it? I mean, I was completely baffled.
You know what? Can I say something else about there was 2 pass interference called against the Giants yesterday. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to ask. This is a question I want to ask you guys. I thought if the ball is not catchable, then there's no such thing as pass interference, because there was a couple calls yesterday. I'm like, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar couldn't have caught this pass, let alone want to receive. One pass interference, Tom Brady had threw the thing out of the end zone, and they called pass interference. I was like, there's no way he could have caught that ball. How was that pass interference? The ball was uncatchable. Like when the ball is uncatchable, can you still? I can see you calling defensive holding, but pass interference, there's a major difference between defensive holding and pass interference. Pass interference, you get the ball at the spot where the foul happened. Defensive holding, you get a 5-yard penalty and you guys get to play on. If the ball's not catchable, they can still call pass interference.
Listen,
I'm confused.
I don't even know what it is anymore. I used to be able to say, okay, pass interference this, offensive hold this. I used to be able to tell you all the plays because I love football. I used to be able to break it down, but there were like 4 or 5 suspect calls last night on both sides of the ball that I was like, I don't know football.
Let me tell you what pass interference is. Pass interference is if me and Fig are hanging out and Fig called a couple of chicks at the bar. I know he married. This is hypothetical. And he called a couple of chicks at the bar, or he come with white people. Wifey has a friend come. And they want me to talk to her. But she's clearly, I'm not attracted to her. I want to pass. But Fig make me talk to her. That's pass interference, man. Because I was going to pass on her.
Okay, so now you got to understand what pass interference is.
That's exactly what it is.
That's pass interference. Well, I'm from
like, yo, man, I'm not interested in being the wingman tonight.
Yeah, where I'm from, they call that something else, but I can't say that word on there. There's something blocking, you know what I'm saying? But I can't, we'll go there. But anyway, it's the halfway point in the season now, right? The NFL season. We're looking at the halfway point right now. And I'm going to throw out my surprises of the season, and I'm going to ask you what each one of y'all surprises. My 3 surprises of the season. Number 1 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got to say, the Pittsburgh Steelers have surprised me overall, but at this point in time, being undefeated. I ain't see that coming. I don't think nobody saw that coming. Also, number 2 is the importance of preseason with all the injuries. Like I knew preseason was important, but I didn't think preseason was that important until now. I'm looking at San Francisco. They got all these injuries. You just go throughout the league, all these people, And number 3 for me is Lamar Jackson. Like I didn't think the dude could be so good in 1 year and turn around and be so mediocre the following season. Immediately the following season. So talent. You can give me 1, 2, or 3 surprises that surprised you in the NFL season. What would those 3, up to 3 things be?
Well, one thing would be definitely Tampa Bay, because I didn't see a couple of pieces coming to Tampa Bay and putting it together the way they did. Yeah. So I thought that this year Brady would kind of be mediocre and get it together by next season. So a couple of additives over there and things they surprised the hell out of me. Clearly, both New York teams, not with Buffalo, the exception to the rule, the Jets and the Giants in my lifetime have never been so bad at the same time ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. This is clearly an anomaly. Like we've never seen these 2 teams at the bottom. We've seen them be mediocre together. We've seen one flourish more than the other. It's always been lopsided or here, never here. Mm-hmm. So those 2 things are big surprises to me. And Seattle, man. All of this hype and Russell Wilson talking, the positive things are coming collectively from the team. I thought he would dominate all the stuff that we would see in Seattle this season, and that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing a collective effort. At times defense, at times receivers, at times the run game cuts on, and at times Russell Wilson. Those are my 3 top surprises so far.
Okay. Fig, same question to you. You could have 1, 2, or 3 surprises. What would be your thing that surprised you the most in the NFL season up to now so far? I gotta say, talent, your 3 was really good too. Really good.
Yeah, both of y'all knocked on, especially with the Giants and the Jets, man. That was horrible. I was, if you remember, I was joking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and talking about Ben Roethlisberger, coming back off his injury. I didn't see them being that good because I didn't think Ben was going to come back and play at the level that he's playing now. Certainly not an undefeated team. I didn't see Miami having as many wins as they're having this year. That surprised me because I'm used to Miami being absolutely horrible, and then
so is Miami.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, I didn't see the Patriots falling off this far. Now I give them a little caveat because a lot of their stars opted out. You know what I mean? And then they had a couple of key injuries and stuff like that. But I didn't see the Patriots being this bad. I kind of thought that somewhere along the line, Tampa Bay and the Patriots would be sort of competitive. I was looking for the Tom Brady, Belichick kind of going at each other at some point this year. And I didn't see the Patriots falling off to be that bad.
Well, I'll say this: all of us named some great surprises, and that's why we like the NFL, because you never know what's going to happen every season. But
any given Sunday,
right? But I will say this: COVID had a huge thing to do this year with a lot of teams ultimately rolled out, because some teams could have been better with preseason. You know what I mean? They could have been better at the point right now with preseason, and then they may fall off later. Or some teams might have been worse. But it's one of those years. But since we're talking about, obviously, the NFL, I want to throw this out there. Today's the trade deadline day. By 4 o'clock, we should see some trades. There have been some big names thrown out there, from Stephon Gilmore to Julio Jones, and to my man Kenny Stills, wide receiver for Houston. Do you think, I'll throw this out there to you, Talent, because the Patriots is making the most news right now because they put Stephon Gilmore up on the market right now. They want a number one back and a good player. Then I think they're trying to do that because last year the Rams, Jalen Ramsey was traded to the Rams and they got a number one pick and a good player. Now, I'm throw this out there to you, Talent. Do you think it's going to be a buyer, by the 4 o'clock deadline for Stephon Gilmore? Or do you think all the teams, especially this year, are going to be like, yeah, that's too rich for me, especially what's going on?
I think it's too risky for most teams. I think it's a little rich for a lot of people's appetite of football. Right now, especially we're week 8 in a real situation where we'd be week 4. With week 8, you're halfway through the season. Do you give up another good player for this player and a pick at week 8? That's a tough one. I think that's real rich for a lot of appetite. The only way you're gonna get somebody to take her is a team that's already sucking up but happen to have a good player. Mm-hmm. You're gonna need a sucky team that happen to have a good player, because the good teams or decent teams that have a good player, they're not gonna take a risk halfway through the season. This guy come in and learn a new system.
I understand what you're saying, but I will say this: some teams are just the cornerback away from having their defense locked solid, locked tight. So they might make that trade, but
then you make the trade, Frank. Let's say you make the trade.
They got to give up somebody.
Let's say I give up somebody. So now I'm not a quarterback away. I'm a receiver.
Yeah.
Now I'm a runner. Now I'm a blocker. Like whatever you give up is got to be a good player. So you're going to be that away now.
Yeah, that's true. Unless you got an overabundance of them sitting there, you know what I mean. You could have
the bum teams. The bum teams got everything you need.
Not
the bum teams are Walmart of shopping for players.
I don't know.
They got everything you need.
I don't know about that one. You can look at some teams like Tampa Bay, for example. They got a lot of wide receivers now. You know what I mean? And they got a lot of.
But you got a team like Tampa Bay with a Brady that's trying to make a statement in his elder years. He keeping all the receivers, man. He's stocking up for. You know what this reminds me of? When COVID first hit, it was no toilet paper to be found.
Yeah. There you go with the analogies. Fig, what you think, man?
Yo, man, I'm gonna tell you something. You just mentioned Tampa Bay, man. The last place in the world Tampa Bay is gonna trade a good player to is the Patriots. And it's like Tom Brady he would shave his head entirely bald, boy, to give a good player to over there to his own team. Oh man. Nah, man. I'm trying to think what team is hungry that really needs it. Look,
there are 4 or 5 teams out there.
Like Aaron Rodgers, they need a defensive player, but I don't think they have enough players to give up a good player and still be formidable. Like, what would you give up? You know what I mean? To solidify your defense. I'm trying to think who really needs to solidify their defense and can take them over the top, man. I think there's 2. Honestly, I think
a lot of people are defensive teams. A lot of people are 2 or 3 players away. I mean, but like Talon said, you give up one thing, you're giving up something else. You know what I mean?
But do you have like if the team that gives, like you said, Frank, like the team that gives up a player, do they have a bunch of those players on the squad? You know what I mean? Like, and it has to be a team that's on the cusp of winning. All the teams that's on the cusp of winning, like, what they gonna give up?
I'll throw this out there. If Kansas City, because Kansas City's defense is not as great as everybody like to believe.
Right.
If Kansas City makes a trade with the Patriots, they could use somebody behind it because their front line is tight. But behind them, when somebody breaks the line, they're running. You know what I mean? Stephon Gilmore helps all of that.
But what would they give up, though? Who are they going to give up? A receiver?
I don't know.
Running back?
They got a couple of running backs, though. They could. But I don't know. But the Patriots don't need a running back. The Patriots need a wide receiver. So, but it depends on what they need versus what they're giving. You know how trades go. But anyway, I want to move this thing on because before I bring in Stack in 5 minutes, and because Roddy Perry's not here today, before I bring in Stack in 5 minutes, I want to start talking about the NBA and then bring him in so we can continue on with the NBA conversation because a couple of things jumped off this morning. Chris Paul, right? We all talked about Chris Paul a couple of days ago. Chris Paul has made it known to management that the only two places he's willing to go from Oklahoma City is New York or LA. That's where he wants to go. He only wants to play in New York or LA. I'm going to say this to you, Talent. Do you see Chris Paul being traded to either the Knicks, the Clippers, or the Lakers? And if so, which team do you think he'll land on because of obviously his demands? Because he put these demands on Oklahoma in the last 24, 48 hours. That's where he's willing to go. Now, we all know he's being offered, he's being shot. So he even made it a little tighter for them. What's your thought process now?
Well, I think obviously what's going to happen is if it's going to be New York, sad to say he's going to have to do. I remember LeBron when he was contemplating New York years ago, said they messed up in the meeting because they didn't have a plan of who's coming with. Like, what are you going to do? Okay, if I come and sign these 2-3 years, what's the plan that we can win, that we can put something together and be a contender in a year or two? They messed that up with LeBron. So I think that the only way he's ended up in New York is that the agents and the powers that be are speaking and presenting a plan to a Chris Paul for him to come here, because it's not going to make sense any other way. Otherwise, you're going to one of the LA teams because they already got pieces in place that looks promising.
Right,
New York,
but if you're saying a team, what team are you saying? Basically, he's going to go.
Well, I'm talking about the only way it ends up in New York. Okay. I think if I'm in a realistic Chris Paul scenario, it's going to be one of the West Coast teams, LA. The only way it's not, and it is New York, is what I'm saying. Somebody has to lay down a floor plan for Chris Paul. At this stage of his career, he's not coming out here just to be here.
I got you. I think honestly he's going somewhere where he knows he's going to have an excellent shot winning a championship. So it's going to be the Lakers or the Clippers. You know what I mean? But again, the Lakers don't have the Lakers don't have their whole team together right now, and the Clippers basically have almost everybody. So if you're Chris Paul, you heard the question right now. If you're Chris Paul, where do you think Chris Paul lands, and what makes most sense to him if you're Chris Paul?
The thing to me is that if I took a Chris Paul where he would be needed the most, I would put him in LA on the Clippers, because the one thing that they didn't have on that team was a voice and a floor general. That's what they did not have. They didn't have somebody who was vocal and a floor general and a leader on the team, on the floor and stuff like that. You had good players, but you didn't have nobody to galvanize the team and bring them together. Right. Another place which is like making my head spin, man, is New York, because Dolan likes big splash names. Yeah. He likes names, he likes stars, but here's the problem. He's only going to get one. He's not going to bring 2 or 3. He's just going to get one player. You have a name, pay him a boatload of money. You know what I mean? Towards the end, like he'll give a player like Chris Paul, which is probably Chris Paul like 35. He'll give him like a 6-year deal at $30 million a year type thing. You know, that something really astronomically stupid that Dolan does on a regular basis, and I can see him doing something, and then give up like some of our best player, like a Barrett and the center. I can't call his name right now. It's off the top of my head, but I can see him giving away some really good pieces to get a Chris Paul, and then he ain't gonna have nobody to play with, and we'll have another losing season, and they'll fire everybody all over again, and it's just a sinking hole.
All right.
Well, at least we got a boatload of money.
Yeah. With that being said, I'm getting ready to bring in Stack to check some facts with Stack. Stack, what's going on, bro? I see you moving around and you making something happen over there. But I want to ask you, did we get anything right or wrong? And then I want to jump back into this conversation. Stack, can you hear me? We can't hear you, Stack. You can't hear you, Stack.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm good. Yeah, what's up, fellas? Y'all had a clean show. You know, everything seemed good. I don't see a problem to extended playoffs though for the NFL. They've been talking about that for a while, so that's pretty much it. I just don't see a problem with that. There's 32 teams in the NBA. There's 32 teams in the NFL. The NBA does a 16-team playoff. You know, it's not, and then they get to make that extra revenue. I think it's gonna be all right. More representation, more fit.
But that's not a good comparison because
people sitting at home now.
Yeah, but that's not a good comparison with the NBA to NFL because the NBA has 82 games. The NBA to NFL because the NBA has 82 games. The NFL has 16. As we all know, everybody looks forward to the games on Sunday because you don't play all the time. You know what I mean? It's a rites of passage. It's a ritual. Families get together to watch. You know what I mean? The NBA plays Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, you know what I mean? It's not the same to me. But since I got you on the line, Stack, and since I got Fig and Talent here, I'm gonna say this. We were talking about the NBA, and since we're talking about the NBA, Adam Silver has been meeting and making phone calls and stuff like that and having conference calls with GMs about they're trying to get the NBA to start around the first week in December. Here's the issue for those people out there who are watching. Here's the issue. They're trying to figure out how they're going to make the money work because the players are trying not to take a salary reduction. You know what I mean? So if the players don't take a salary reduction and they don't figure out how this thing is going to work, what happens is the NBA owners start to lose money and then they start dipping in their own pocket. So I'll throw this out there to you, Talent. Do you think the NBA is going to be able to get a start of the season in December like they're planning on because there's so much money? And do you think the players are going to end up giving up and saying, you know what, we want the season to go? We want the season to move forward, so we're willing to take a pay reduction. Or do you see the players saying, "Hey, that's y'all got to pay us. Too bad, so sad." What's your thought?
I think that what's going to happen is you're going to have some structure or collective bargaining if it affects people pay. Like in other words, those big contracts. They talked about this before. This came up before. Those super contracts we call super contracts are going to take the bulk of that fee if we have a fee. I think they'll get it together, personally. I think we're going to see a December start. I think they'll get it together because, again, the majority of the players don't make what the super contract people make, and they can't risk. What do we always say? Threaten that check. It gets done.
Right. What's your thought, brother?
Man, I think, Frank, what you said makes a lot of sense. Here's the thing with the NBA having those extra games. It's like there's no threat of injury or bodily harm and any long-lasting injuries. With the NFL, it is. You know what I mean? So that's the thing when you add the games. But in the NBA with the money, man, look, the NBA owners and the NBA itself, they're trying to save that money. And the players, look, they make large amount of money and they have to understand, like, at the end of the day, it's not personal, it's business. You want your money, you want your salary, and these owners have to put on a product. You're not getting people in the stands because you're in a pandemic. So it really boils down to a business decision. Like, really, what do you want to do? You know what I mean? Do you want to give up your money or do you want to play the games? And that's the bottom line. That's what the NBA players, the decision that they have to come to. Give back some money, you know what I mean, in your contract because you can't play the 82 games or play as many games as you possibly can to save as much as your money as you possibly can. And they said December 22nd. Now, these guys are arguing about, coming back early and all this stuff like that. Dude, you have 4 months off. You know what I mean? An entire 4 months in between, last season. So, and you got a few months off now. December is like next month. Like, dude, how much rest do you? I don't know, man. It is what it is. Rest a little bit during the season. Take a couple games off during the season.
What's your thought process?
I mean, I just look at it like, they get game checks. So they have their salary. They divide it over 82 games. I think that, we just, the players and the ownership just come to an agreement like, hey, we get paid according to the same scale. But if we play less games, we won't max out the same amount that we would have if we played 82. I think that's fair for everybody.
Yeah, I think they need to adjust it and say, since we're paying so much money over here, if y'all want to make this thing happen, want to make this play, because we have to get some money to pay you. If we don't get the money, we can't pay you. So it's just that. It's not like you're all going to get the money from me, if the games aren't being played. You know what I mean? Like, you could, we all know, because when you're struggling and the bill collector's coming at your door talking about, boop, 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 you got to pay. I don't have it. So I can see the NBA owner say right now, listen, I can't pay you because I don't have it. It's just not gonna, and they're not coming out their pocket. Let's make sure we're clear on that. They are not coming out their pocket of their own money. They will pay the players from wherever revenue is generated from TV contracts and from the seats. That's how they do it. Moving on, I need to tell you all, of course, Pelican brief time moment and everything else. Of course, I checked the boards last night and everything else. Talent, this is going to make you go, uh-oh, one of those moves. 76ers Clippers talking about making a trade. Ben Simmons for Paul George. That's the big thing right now that's heating up the boards. Now, we talked about movement that the Sixers are doing a fire sale somewhat and everything else. They moving some stuff around. Talent, do you think 76ers making this move, Ben Simmons for Paul George, do you think it will happen? And do you think the trade actually works? And you're on mute, Talent. Talent, you're on mute.
First of all, the bigger question is, what kind of relationship do George have with Doc Rivers? For you to leave a place and bring somebody with, it remind me of working at a place and they fired me with Fig, let's go. I still gotta come on.
Yo, we caught.
But I think we caught. Come out the bushes. They caught us. I think that can happen. I could see that happening. I'm surprised we don't see more of that happening, actually, to be honest with you. Like, if you have a coach and with all these players, you have to have some sort of relationship where somebody believed in your system. Somebody believed that it wasn't you. So when you left, they try to finagle their way to go and stay with that system or whatever. I'm surprised we haven't seen this more and more, but I think that could happen, and I think that's a great look for the Sixers organization.
Okay, Fig, I'll throw it to you, and I'll throw this out there, my little 2 cents opinion. I think the trade works for both sides. You know what I mean? I think it works for both. I think Ben Simmons will probably love to get out of Philly playing with Joel Embiid, and he probably would love to play on obviously a contender that could win the NBA championship. And then it works for Paul George too, because he might not like having the pressure. It might not be as much pressure, to actually win the whole thing if he goes to the Sixers. What's your thought, Fig?
I'll tell you like this, man. It does makes a lot. It makes a lot of sense both ways. Just like you said, I think Paul George realized that playing at home is not all that it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
And when he was having his problems in the bubble, his mental issues, not making fun of that. When he was having his mental issues, the one person that he wanted to talk to was Doc Rivers. Mm-hmm. That was the person who they sat down and had a heart-to-heart talk, you know what I mean, to help him get through whatever it is that he was going through by being in the bubble. So he talked to Doc Rivers. I think that relationship is solidified. I think they'd be good. Here's how it works for the teams. Paul George is a shooter. I don't care what happened last year in the bubble and stuff like that. He's a knockdown shooter. He plays defense. He's serviceable on the defensive end. And I think that's somebody that the Sixers could use, because the one thing that they don't have in Philly is they don't have that knockdown shooter that could give space in the paint in order for Joel Embiid to be able to work freely. So I think those two don't work together, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Now, how it works for the Clippers, they get the point guard and the floor general that they need, and somebody who's super athletic. Like Ben Simmons is an athletic player. He's not the greatest outside shooter, but they got enough shooters in LA. They got enough shooters on the Clippers, and he could dish the ball or take it to the paint. That solves a major problem for both teams, and I think it works for both teams. I don't know what the money is like, if that's interchangeable, but as far as the players and the teams and what they need, I think it works out for both teams.
Zach, I'll throw it to you, and I'll say I think they're going to make the money work. I don't think it's going to happen with draft picks. I think it could be a straight up and up, one player for player. I think because they both have long-term contracts, I think they both are familiar with the systems. I think it's literally a great trade if the Sixers are able to pull it off. You know what I mean? But what's your thought process?
Yeah, I think it's a lateral move. I don't think it's really gonna make either team better. It's just gonna change them. Like, I think you're trading offense for defense. Ben Simmons, they knock on him as he can't shoot, but defensively he's like superior to many guys, especially at 6'10", being able to move around, and he's still a floor general. I mean, he's not much of a leader, but he can move the ball around. You're right about them having shooters, but I think it'll just be like an even swap, really, where both guys probably need a change of setting anyway. So I think that'll be the only positive.
Stack, I think it's a lateral move money-wise, but I think the Clippers come out ahead with that trade. That's what I think. Okay. I think they become a better team. I mean, hey, that's why they play the games. We'll find out. I think the Clippers come out ahead by losing.
I think for roles, I will be good for roles because I think that Philly relies on Simmons to play more like a slasher, and he's not a slasher. Yeah. He's more like he's a point guard, really. You know, and then at the same time, look how Philly did with Jimmy Butler and how he thrived in there. He's a slasher. So,
All right, so let me ask you guys this question right now because I've heard this 4 or 5 times when I read it 4 or 5 times this morning and everything else too, is that Minnesota is shopping the number 1 pick. They're at least exploring to see what teams want to give up the number 1 pick, to make some trades. There's 3 teams. It's New Orleans, it's LA, and Miami are having discussions with Minnesota about having the number 1 pick and swapping out a player or 2 for that number 1 pick. Now, Stack, I'll start with you and go.
Wait, hold, Frank. Which LA?
Oh, the Lakers. The Lakers. Okay. I'll start with you, Stack, and I'll say the Lakers, New Orleans, or Miami with the number 1 pick. Do you see the Lakers, New Orleans, or Miami doing that with Minnesota? Stack, you go first.
Maybe Miami. But no. I don't see anybody. I don't see anybody really going after this number 1 pick or number 2 like that. I don't think it's gonna happen this year. I don't.
Okay.
I think with the way free agency is set up this season and how abundant it is with talent and guys that are just, that can do all types of things, I don't see anybody really going to the draft to get better. They're just gonna just rock with the free agent market.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right because the way Minnesota is dangling it right now, they're not even sure how good the players are because there was no thorough player evaluation this year because of COVID. What's your thought process on it?
It's exactly the same. I mean, you guys are absolutely right. There's no evaluation process, and more importantly, even if it was, there's nothing jumping out the ceiling at you. You know, it's only those drafts where these players, these exceptional players, clearly cut above the rest that people get excited for, and it becomes worth money. You can equate the top 5 picks into dollars and cents. This ain't that kind of draft. Right.
Fig, the same question goes to you because it's not like we got a Zion coming out this year, right? It's like who we got? Is it LaMelo Ball? I think, and I don't know anybody who's excited about getting him on their team. I'm like, he's all right, but you know
know what? I haven't been following the college scene because of COVID. But yesterday I was watching something, and there's this 7-footer. This kid, when I watched him, I only seen like a couple videos. Mm-hmm. This kid reminds me of a young David Robinson, and he's left-handed. Mm-hmm. This kid is mobile, he's agile, and he looks a little hostile, and he has a nice little jumper, and he's left-handed. He looks like he's going to be a problem. If I were Miami, who doesn't have a really good big man, you know what I mean? They have Adebayo, but he's not really he's just not really a big man, like a defensive big man to me. I would do something if I was Miami. The reason I think that Minnesota is trying to do something is because they got Big Cat, and those two are not going to work. Now they may not have any forwards or point guards coming out that'll make a big splash, but I think that center, I can't remember his name because I just, for the first time I saw him yesterday, but that kid is special.
Yeah,
look out for his I can't think of his name right now, but he's going to be special.
I can't either, but I don't think he's coming out one or the top 5. That's the problem. So,
no, they talking about him going number 1 or 2.
No, he might go number 1 or 2. Yeah,
they were talking about that's why they were talking about Minnesota didn't want him because they already have a big man. You know what I mean? And they do the same thing.
No, I understand what you're saying. You know how it is. You never know who's going to go 1, 2, 3. Actually, you don't know who's going to go top. We'll see. I don't think he's going to go in the top 3, but we'll see. I think everybody on the NBA level like that, I think they really are enamored with this LaMelo Ball kid. And that other kid, the black kid, I think he's from Kansas or something. The one with the 7-foot wingspan, the one who's 6'7", forgot his name. But let me ask you this. Let's move this thing on. Let me ask you this, because we know Minnesota is definitely shopping out the number 1 pick. But there are teams out there that are also shopping stars. And look at DeMar DeRozan right now. He's being shopped to Detroit, Orlando, and Milwaukee. He got $27.7 million he's owed. Detroit, Orlando, and Milwaukee are looking to obviously take, at least have a conversation. And I've heard Milwaukee's having the most heated conversations with them for DeMar DeRozan. Now, Talent, do you think DeMar DeRozan going to Milwaukee makes sense, or going to any of those teams, Detroit, Orlando, or Milwaukee? Because it's a big hit in your cap. You know what I mean? It's a big cap hit.
Well, just it makes sense, Milwaukee. You know what I mean? Given Milwaukee, any decent caliber player makes sense to go to Milwaukee. And DeRozan is obviously just a slight tier under what we would call a superstar in the league, one of the top players. He's proven. He's proven he's consistent. And I like the kid's attitude, man. I like a guy that's a franchise player who's on a team that never got over the hump. Now imagine what he must be mentally. He's totally capable himself, but his team collectively never got it done. And then the 1 year they get rid of you, swap out, they get it done. They bring in somebody, swap out, they get it done, get the chip. Think how you got to feel. This guy keeps his head level. Because I could have easily got a noose, tied it over some strong plumbing in the house, and canceled Christmas after that happened. But he didn't do that. He keeps being consistent and playing. So Milwaukee makes all the sense in the world. You take somebody this good and this mentally sound and basketball savvy and put them on Milwaukee with most of the people they got there right now. Yeah. I bet you one thing, they won't be quick out like they did. They won't let people down like they did this year.
I guarantee that. Fig, what's your thought process?
I like him. I was thinking about it real hard, man. The one thing is that DeRozan, the one thing that he doesn't have in his game is that 3-point shot. He got a mid-range. He could get to the hole. He's really good. Maybe the cold weather do him some good because he went from Toronto to San Antonio. That must have been a culture shock as far as weather is concerned. Getting to Milwaukee is more consistent with the weather that he came from, man.
Right.
I like him. I like him as a better look. He's better than what they've had so far. DeRozan also plays defense. Mm-hmm. He does play defense. That's another thing that I like about him. But I'm wondering if him and Giannis will blend because Giannis doesn't have a shot, and Giannis needs somebody who could. In order for Giannis to thrive, he really needs players that could stretch the floor and knock down 3-pointers in order for him to thrive at his highest level. Because look, they took the Lopez brothers and made, one, they didn't let him play at all, and the other one they made him take 3-point shots to open up the paint for Giannis. So to me, if you're gonna send a player to Milwaukee, if he can't shoot threes, like what are you really doing?
Yeah, Milwaukee's not gonna get better like that. They need an outside shooter badly.
I mean, and forget the weather. The weather got nothing to do with this. You know what this is? This is they got the chip a year after they got rid of man, that's the girl that stuck around 5 years that you wouldn't marry. Then you break up, and the next girl, 1 year, boom, you marry. That's how he feels. Find some strong plumbing.
There you go. Stack, what's your thought process on this?
I mean, if some, I don't know what the money's like in Milwaukee, but if they could somehow keep Middleton, then I like adding DeRozan because Middleton stretches the floor. He's one of the better 3-point shooters in the team. And I think they can get some more shooting in the free agency, but they're gonna have to just straight up sign both of those dudes because DeRozan's got the player option. So if he opts out, he could get straight up signed, and then they're gonna have to get DeRozan and a shooter. I think that's what it's gonna take for Milwaukee because even though he's not a 3-point shooter, you're not gonna leave him open. Mm-hmm. You're definitely not gonna leave him open, and he'll kill you in the mid range. And he's athletic; he can attack the basket. I think Giannis can sink the defense in and still get it out, get the ball off to DeRozan. So I think he'll be fine, but it would be better if Middleton could stay.
Yeah, that's a great point. If Middleton's there, man, they definitely you keep Middleton and you get DeRozan, man. You gotta look. First of all, DeRozan has a great dentist and dental plan. If he meet up with Middleton and hook him up with the dentist, man, listen, man, forget the rebounds and shots. That boy, you fix his smile, I guarantee you 2 championships back to back.
Oh man,
that's terrible. All right, Fig, I'm gonna ask you this
but
question.
true.
It's true. Fig, I'm gonna ask you this next question. The Suns have inquired about Dame Lillard. The Suns have inquired about him, and Portland's listening. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen, everything else, but it's one of those things that you see on the board where people make the calls and everything else, and this thing at least has conversation. If I am Portland, I don't even listen to the call. Like, he's the player you don't touch. But I don't know. What's your thought process when you heard about that? I guess you need a minute to maybe come back.
Man, listen, Dame Lillard in Phoenix.
Yeah. With Booker, that would be something else. Yeah.
Man, let me tell you.
Ain't gonna happen.
Man, do you know what? Yo,
Ain't gonna happen.
For who?
Who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
Hey man, listen. Them boys. They got Monty. Monty is a coach. Monty Williams is a coach. You understand what I'm saying? He had them. Listen, we're talking about a team that didn't lose in the bubble. Not one game. They didn't lose not one game. That boy Ayton is coming along. He looked like he gonna be a beast. Like Ayton is gonna be a beast. He a problem. And we're not even talking about Booker. You can, if he put up a shot, Booker is going in. That's why they call him Booker, because that's what he does. He put up a shot, you can book that is going in. Put that with Dame Lillard.
No,
man, let me tell you, there ain't nobody in the West or the East that want to see Dame Lillard, Devin Booker, and Ayton on the team coming to your squad, or you having to go out to Phoenix to see them coached by a Monty Williams. Man, let me tell you. I think
what Figure's saying is good, but the problem is when you have these trades, it depends on who you give up to make the trade work. Number one,
well, you got to give up Devin Booker or Ayton.
I know that. I know.
I'm
saying who they give up to make the trade work and what it happens. So just because they, you know how this goes, talent doesn't mean it's going to actually work.
Man, Fig got to keep in mind. Exactly. You got to give up the house to get Dame. First of all, you got to give up 3 bona fide players, couple of picks, the parking facility, the practice facility, endless amount of games. Ain't gonna happen. First of all, looking at it from Dame perspective, you don't really leave a city you own. He owns Portland right now. You don't leave until your ownership runs up. You don't cancel that lease. He owns it. You bring people to the city you own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yo, Talent, but what about Paul? He got to go too?
Don't be like Paul. You got to give up a lot of stuff. So I don't see it happening from the Dame perspective. But again, Frank, pay attention to Frank's scenario, which is always real. When we hear a trade, the first part of it, you hear that first name, ooh, he'd be dope over there. But not if you give everybody up. Carmelo would have been dope on the Knicks, but you gave all 5 players up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Now that's an analogy for your ass, right?
Yeah, there you go. Stack, what's your thought process when you hear about it? Because we all know that it sounds like a great potential, but what they're giving up is the that's the question.
And that's why I don't put a lot of weight into a lot of the art. A lot of it be clickbait these days. I mean, Damian Lillard, that's $40 million of salary right there. Like, that's 2, 3 guys. And I just don't know 2 or 3 guys on Phoenix that are really going to justify, getting rid of your best player, the bubble MVP at that. Like, I don't see it. Maybe CJ. Maybe give up CJ for 3 other complimentary guys. The money will work out, and
works. I like CJ.
Yeah.
I love CJ.
CJ be in. That's what I'm saying. I like CJ.
CJ a baller, baby.
Oh yeah, CJ be great with Bucs.
Give me CJ and Paul, and you can have whoever you want.
It really, like I said at the beginning of this, it really depends on what they got to give up, because Phoenix is it's one of them teams that's going up. We all know some of the teams that are going down, but Phoenix, if they make the right moves, they're going up. And you got to give kudos to the GM and everything else. Those guys up there, because they're putting the pieces together slowly but surely as they're starting to ascend. That's the way I think it is. But anyway, today that's our show. Tomorrow we got to come back. Tomorrow is going to be Wednesday. I'm gonna have Fig give us the results maybe a day early, but we got you the picks on Thursday like we normally do, and I'm looking forward to that.
I got us. Look at Stacks' face. Why you smiling, Stacks?
Hey, Fig, I hope you got a list tomorrow. I want a list tomorrow of not your top dogs. I want to see if we can do a not your top dogs, because there's some dudes who Daniel Jones has got to be on that list because last night game, like wow, he kind of blew that game. Like they had that game.
It's kind of hard for me to pick on.
I'm not picking on DJ.
He's only been in the league for 2 years. You know what I
I'm
mean?
not picking on DJ.
I don't expect
I'm
much.
not picking on it. It's just like you had one
He did
bad
a good
game.
job. He had a
That's
good
all.
game. He did all right. He did all right.
If he made one, that I don't want to get to. We're getting off the subject here. I got to close this show. But if he had made one better pass at the end, that end of the game, you don't know what could have happened. That could have been the upset of the season last night.
Exactly.
Could have been. But we got to get ready to wrap up. Talent to everybody out there. Of course, how to follow you. If you want them to follow you today, I don't want to be presumptuous. Word of the day.
They can follow me today. Today's a good day. I feel great. I voted. I feel the energy around the nation, man. And I think it's a great energy. And I think we're going to know sooner than later who the new president of the United States will be. So you can find me on Twitter at It's Just Comedy, Talent the Comedian on Instagram, King Talent Harris on Facebook, or look out your back window. I might be creeping in your back.
Oh, not the creeping. Hope
Who's
nothing happens to you.
peeking in your window?
I just love that song. Fig, you up.
You can follow your boy FIG on all social media platforms at Comedian Fig, baby. And let me tell you something. I don't care who you voted for as long as you voted. And no matter what happens, no matter your candidate wins or somebody else's candidate wins, you make sure you have your behind tuned into the box seat tomorrow because it's going to be Hump Day Wednesday. And we're going to give you all the results of the stuff that went down for the past week, baby. And you better believe it.
I hope we have our not top dogs, Fig. I hope we had that. I hope we had Stack. How can they follow you?
Y'all can follow me at Stacking Over on Instagram and Twitter. Y'all can also catch me looking forward to Fig telling us about them scores from this week.
Okay.
I smell number one again.
Yeah, that's something else you're smelling. That's your upper lip. You ain't smelling number one.
Smell like number one. I ain't got nothing in the grill today, so I don't know. It might be number one.
Right. All right, yeah, whatever. All right, this is the Box Seats. We're on every Monday through Friday from 1 to 2. I'm Frank. That's Stack. That's Fig. That's Talent. Rodney Perry will be back tomorrow with, of course, the segment we call I Disagree. Fig is going to start us out tomorrow with not your top dogs. I'm looking forward to that. And of course, we on the Humor Mill app. Make sure you go out and vote today. The Humor Mill app is available on everything. And you can even call your cable service provider, get them to add the channel. Please do that. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Peace.